Okay, so here I will be testing this Next Metal 0.5 millimeter Nitinol linear actuator wire. So it should contract by 5% because they squish it at the factory, so when it heats up it contracts. So I've devised this safety apparatus to test it. Now the website says you can simply apply a direct current to it because the electrical current will cause it to heat up by itself. So I did that, and you can see it did in fact lift up this pair of locking pliers, which weighs less than 1 pound, to note. And this advertises a lift of 29 newtons, or approximately 4 pounds, a bit more than that. You can see once it cools down again, it extends again. So we hopefully we can use this in a muscle, but unfortunately after a few tests, I've noticed the wire starts to sag. So the reason I believe behind this issue is because the way Nitinol works is you get it red hot, the atoms can freely move around. So when you bend it and when it's red hot and you let it cool down, the atoms arrange themselves in a crystalline structure. And once you bend them to form them at room temperature, of course it wants to return back to lowest energy, which means back to its crystal structure. Which is why when you give it a tiny bit of heat, a tiny bit of energy, it gives the atoms enough of push that they'll start returning back to their like preset structure of sorts, the one that you formed it in while it was hot. So the issue, of course, is that it's a crystalline structure. The crystals can undergo elongation by putting a load on them. And in fact, the website does say that while you can use it like this, you should put a spring on it to help it return to its shape. So after a few trials, you can see the locking plier starts to sag a lot more, which is rather unfortunate. This wire was around $30 for 3 feet, so quite pricey. Now, there may be another reason, which is that this wire is probably not actually Nitinol, or at least not like the proper Nitinol, but more rather a knockoff version of it, because Nitinol is a trademark brand, of course, and they have patents and stuff. So this is likely not pure Nitinol alloy, and probably not the highest quality. Anyways, one last try, I decided to measure the amount of contraction it has, because it advertises 5%, which should be approximately a little over 4 centimeters, 4.4 centimeters, I believe. And you can see here I only measured around 3 centimeters, so yeah, this wire really didn't last, like, very long after a few trials. Now, I did try to reform it by heating it red hot and turning it into a spring, but it didn't really go back to its normal shape. And here you can see I made a paper clip out of it, and even then, when I throw it in hot water, it doesn't really go back to its original shape, which should be a perfectly bent paper clip. So yeah, this wire likely cannot be used for the purposes we want, but we may find some other use for it in the future.